The gospel lesson this morning comes to us from Mark chapter 12, verses 38 through 44. And in his teaching, Jesus said, "Beware of the scribes who like to go about in long robes and to have salutations in the marketplaces and the best seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at feasts, who devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers. They will receive the greater condemnation." And Jesus sat down opposite the treasury and watched the multitude putting money into the treasury. Many rich people came, put in large sums. And a poor widow came and put in 2 copper coins, which make a penny. And Jesus called the disciples and said to them, "Truly I say to you, this poor widow has put more than all those who are contributing to the treasury. For they all contributed out of their abundance. But she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, her whole living." May God add understanding to the reading of this gospel. Please be seated. God, I ask that you anoint my lips and anoint my heart. Remove me from myself and replace that with the movement of your Spirit within me. I ask that you give me your words for your people to hear this day, no matter where they may be. And I ask that the words that I think have been given me for this day be taken to heart, be taken with love, and with understanding. Amen. The gospel lesson this morning is one that most pastors just do not like to preach about or even talk about. And I would include myself as one of those pastors. There are some churches that never even discuss money or the treasury. Some churches just have a box in the back of their meeting facility for friends and members to quietly place their offerings. However, I think sometimes that it is not only necessary but healthy for us to have a public discourse about this subject. How many couples, when one passes away, the other is devastated because they've never even sat down and figured out what bills get paid every month? What bills have to be paid to keep the lights on? Who's Swepco versus Black Hills? Who's Prairie Grove Telephone Company versus Cox Cable? It's important to have these discussions once in a while, or we lose track. Just this past week, one of my sisters called me and shared that she and her husband had found a new church home. This is the first time for her since her early childhood. She asked me what the appropriate amount was to give to the church. So, of course, being a good pastor and trying to be a good brother, I explained the Old Testament rule of tithing and of giving the 10% of the first fruits. This, of course, was falling upon deaf ears. And she said, "I don't need or want a percentage, Mark. I need a dollar amount." We discussed it for a while, and I explained to her that if she was just getting active and she really didn't know much about this church yet, she should just give what feels comfortable for now and let that grow as she does. She explained to me that what she was getting out of that church for right now, for this very day, was a feeling of fellowship and fun and family. Again, how much do I give? I encouraged her to start by giving the amount of money that she would pay for a good meal for her and her husband at a decent restaurant each week. If you're getting fun and fellowship, that's why you go out to a good meal. Start there. It's a beginning. I explained to her that as your faith grows and you see the value of the church in your life increase, then your offering should also increase. It is when we give of our whole living that we are truly blessed. We give to the church not for ourselves, but for the value of the works that the church can do by all of us sharing our resources together. Giving is one thing that I think that we can actually test God on. If you really look at what your resources are and what you hope the church can do or provide, and give all that you can, give of your whole being, you will find that you are blessed beyond your initial assessment. Give without condition. In September, we had our last Miracle Offering Sunday. And David gave us a testimonial. I'm going to share some of that with you. He shared of seeing a young man in a wheelchair and thought the child could benefit from a better quality and better built chair. Not able to find the young man again, he went to the pharmacy in town that sold the wheelchairs, and they were able to locate the family. A large donation was made to make sure that the young man could get the new and very expensive wheelchair. After some time, and the check had not been cashed, he inquired about it and was told the young man already had the chair that he was most comfortable in and didn't need a new one. He then decided to leave the donation there and allow it to be used for another young person who could benefit from that same type of sports chair. Still, the check had not cleared, and again he inquired. After the discussion with the pharmacy, he left the donation there for anyone that was in need of a wheelchair, ending any and all conditions on that donation, allowing anyone to be blessed that needed the help. That's giving unconditionally. It doesn't have to go to that little boy I saw at Walmart. It doesn't have to go to another young boy. It can go to somebody else who needs it. Just find the need and answer it. It's the same when you give to the church. This past Sunday night, I spent 4 hours texting with a man that had nothing, had no hope, had tried to find a church to reach out to him, and they all turned their back. After the long discussion, he pleaded, "Would you please come visit me tomorrow in my home?" I agreed. He apologized up front during that texting conversation that he had nothing to offer for our visit, not even a glass of tea, not even ice water. He explained that he had nothing to eat. We left our house to go to the visit and stopped at the Walmart on MLK to purchase some food for him. We used those $20 gift cards for persons in need that people from this church donate. This was your unconditional giving at work. This was you reaching out to the outcast that not one other church would do. I'm going to share with you a family story that's actually very personal and somewhat embarrassing. On our last visit home to Dallas in August, Roy and I met my sisters for lunch one day. My oldest sister and her husband heard us talking about the food drive with my sister Teresa that most of you have met. My oldest sister's husband looked at his wife, my sister Kay, and she nodded yes. And he handed me a $20 bill and said, put that in your food drive. Just 1 month later, my sister Kay passed away very unexpectedly. When the family gathered to make the arrangements and see what needed to be done, they found that Kay and Wayne had $52. No insurance, no other money. They found on the kitchen table cutoff notices for every single utility in that house. They found a letter from the mortgage company that they were about to lose the house. And here, she and her husband, having nothing to spare, wanted to give out of their poverty to help us with food drive for those in need. They wanted to reach out and be a part of something greater than themselves. They gave of their whole living. I'm not suggesting that each of you should do this. As a matter of fact, if I had known their situation, I would have refused their $20. I will, as your pastor, ask that over the next few weeks, you take an inventory of your life. Take an inventory of your resources and see that there is much more that you can do. Have you been giving the same amount each week for years to church? I ask you to seek God's guidance and will and find out if you should make a change in that. We'll be having our vision and planning meeting on November the 24th. After that meeting, I'll be creating a new budget for 2019 to present to the congregation in January. I'm going to ask each person that comes regularly that Sunday to fill out an index card. And after you've done your own inventory, your own assessment, counted your many blessings, write down if you can afford to give a little more each week. People say, why do we need to give more? Utilities keep going up. Everything goes up. You know what else goes up? Your blessings. Give because you can. Don't give just out of your abundance. Don't give just out of your comfort zone. Give until you are knocked out of your comfort zone sometimes. And you will find that you have so many more blessings. I'm stealing from Regina now. A couple of New Year's ago, she started a thing that she wanted to do all year and she let it drop. It was called a blessing box. She had planned to write a blessing every day and drop it in that box and look at it the next New Year's. Do that over the next couple of weeks. Start your own blessing box. Every time you find a blessing or see a blessing, or know that you've been part of a blessing, write that down. Put it in there. And I bet if we just matched every blessing with $2 or $3, we would have a whole lot of money in this church. Give of your whole life being. Give because you want to help. I do hate discussing these things from the pulpit, but I also view it as one of my obligations as a steward of the gifts that come into our church. Let us pray. Give all that you can and celebrate all that you are as a blessing for those in need. For those you will never meet and the ones that will never say thank you directly to you. Their thanks, perhaps, will come from reaching out to another person hurting or in need, and your blessing will be far greater and spread further than you could have ever imagined. Amen.